Most people on a spiritual journey are trying to find themselves, trying to figure out who they really are. Imagine you're on that quest and you're doing courses with other people, but instead of finding yourself, you are helping the other people with their clients, but you don't know it because that's who you are. You're a helper. You infuse your energy into other people, and everybody in the room improves just because of your presence. That's what we discover on today's show. The person's guides even told her a year and a half ago, but she didn't figure it out until this dream. Welcome to the Dream Interpretation Podcast with Michael and Sandy.
Hello, welcome everybody. We are so excited you are here.
All right, Sandy, let's just start off with a dream.
Okay, the title of this one is Projecting Error. I was sitting on a raised bed with 3 computer screens. Michael Sheridan was on one of them teaching a class that involved me and the others on the separate screens. All right, Michael, let's see what's going on so far.
All right, her higher self wants her to focus on spiritual work that raises her up. Now, we often say beds can be about spiritual work. You were talking about the astral plane in the last dream. And when we sleep, we frequently go to the astral plane. Almost every night we go to the astral plane. And so a raised bed can be about that. Any bed can be about that. But when you see a bed in an unusual place, like here we have it, it's a raised bed and 3 computer screens with a spiritual class going on. It's definitely about spirituality, which is kind of cool. So her higher self wants her to focus on spiritual work that raises her up so that she can acknowledge her level. Now, she is at a very high level. And I find it funny that she keeps having dreams about this because she's not accepting it. And the way they put it was, you accept who you are, but you think that while you're on the earth plane, you are small. In other words, you accept you're high, but you think you're small here. Now, that's not true. That would be like saying, when God comes to the earth plane, God is small. God is never small. You're just who you are still on this plane. And it's the same as true for this person. It's the same as true for all of us. Whoever you are on the other side, that's who you are here.
That's good to know. Okay, let's continue on. One person was asked to name a date in November. She said 4 or 10. Michael said she needed to pick one.
Damn straight.
Oh. I found myself projecting, willing her to say 4 as it was my brother's birthday, and I wanted to know more about the date. I could tell she was going to say 10. I wondered if I could override it and have her say 4, but caught myself. I thought, stop it. This is for her and her free will. Right then, another participant commented that she had caught herself doing the same thing. The person choosing the date was overwhelmed because she could feel the battling and was overcome. The other people were now comforting her. Michael was just waiting and had angled his camera up and wide. Now we could see who was in his living room near the front door, and all of his kids had gathered, happy to be in one place. Maybe one was there visiting that they hadn't seen in a long time. They were unaware of the lesson going on. All were happy and beautiful. All right, Michael, that's very interesting, having all your kids in one place while you're teaching.
Yeah, but the key point is she says they were unaware of the lesson going on. And that's how people are in life. They're unaware that there's actually lessons going on. People are learning about themselves, not like that life is testing you in some way. But what I love about this dream is that you have to know who she is on the other side to understand why she's having the dream. And so it's her higher self gave her this one. She, on the other side, can give her energy to people. She's able to help people see their best potential. So if I have a problem and I end up in rehab, she's like the spirit master of rehab on the other side. And in order to get me out of whatever doldrum or whatever horrible negative thinking I have about myself, she's able to just allow me to talk about whatever is going on for me. And in that process, because of her energy, I can see the best in me, the best potential, and not just see it like, oh, look, that's the best I could ever do. I fully believe I'm capable of achieving it. That's her skill on the other side. And so she comes here, and as a human, she has that energy about her. And whoever she focuses on will just improve themselves. And I had asked her, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, I said, they want to show you how your energy works. And they want you to get a group of people, put them together in a room, and then just have them talk about a particular topic. Have everybody focus on a particular topic, doesn't matter what it is. And you want the people to tell you what they think about that topic, whether they like it or dislike it, and why they dislike it, why it would really bother them, and so on. And I said, then meet them all again in about 3 weeks' time and ask them how life is. And they're all going to tell you that their life has improved significantly. And they did. And she did that, and it all happened. And what she didn't get from that is that she has this energy. It's just built into her. But what happens for her is people who work in the spiritual field want her in their classes. And when she's in their classes, if other people are talking about their issues, she is automatically pushing this energy into other people, and they're improving. And the person who's running the class, that's not her, is thinking they're the ones doing it, and they're getting the benefit from this dreamer's work. Does that make sense? Am I making sense there?
Yes.
So in essence, the leaders of these other classes are allowing her to channel her energy into other people, but then thinking it's them that are doing it, and so on and so on and so on. But it's...
So they take the credit for it.
Yeah, and they could take it on purpose or quite accidentally because they just don't know what's going on. But she is aware that people want her to be in their classes. And she's like, but I don't get anything from this class anymore, so I don't think I should be in it. But she ends up in them because she feels bad to say no. But anyway, so it's all about her, understanding who she is on the other side, that she has that. And she has that amazing ability on this side. What else we got? She likes helping people, but she hands off the help to others. And her guides do not like that she does that. So she will find somebody with a problem and go, okay, this is great. Now maybe you need to go do this course, or you need to talk to this person, get a session from that. They don't. They just need to give some time and then talk to her again. That's what's helping the people. So people get healing just by her allowing them to get stuff off their chest, basically. And when people talk in groups, she heals them, and the leader of the group, like I said, gets the credit. So like I said before, she has this ability, and she can get a group together and they can talk about things, and they'll automatically heal issues and their life will improve. And they said, this is so good for you that if you get a group together and you talk about stuff, when you meet them the next time, say 3 weeks later, you don't even need to ask them how they feel about the first issue anymore. It's done and gone. And if it is still an issue, it'll come up again. And I find that interesting, the way they put it. Like, don't go look for the problem. If the problem's there, it'll still be there. We don't always think of that. We want to look for where the gap is, look for the healing rather than look for the change in behavior. So anyway, lovely dream, and lovely that she has these abilities that are just so natural to her, but she doesn't accept it. Maybe she does now, because she knows she's great on the other side, or at least in as much as we can know. But she was still seeing herself as small here on this side because she's human.
All right. So why are you in this stream? You're in it a couple times. You're teaching a class, and then you angle your camera up and wider so like your kids show. So what's going on?
Her on the same screens as me and other people on separate screens. That's all trying to get her to accept who she is. She can look at other people and go, this person's great. And we all are guilty of this. We put somebody up on a pedestal, but we think we're nowhere near it. And so the dream is trying to get her to accept who she is, get her to accept her level, at least in some way, vicariously, by putting me in the dream. And then the last part where it angles up and pans out, it's showing her that people are getting healing, even if they don't know that there's a lesson going on. Like, that's what she says at the end, looking at the whole family, looking at everybody all in one place, unaware of the lesson that's happening, and they're all just happy. And I cut the last little bit of the dream. She talks about she loves all their noses. And they look like some other friends of hers and so on. So she's able to help people face the future, which is what the last little piece of it was about.
Wow, that's great. So we have the number 4 and the number 10. So what's going on with the two numbers?
10 is about completion, 4 is about limitation. But really it's the thing of, in this dream, she becomes aware that she's projecting. She's doing what I say she has naturally. she's able to project her energy into somebody and influence them. But we see that here called out in the dream. And then she stops herself. And then in the next piece, somebody else says, oh, I was doing that. And then they all have a talk and she doesn't say anything. So like she lets other people take credit for what she's doing. But the dream is calling it out, as well as my guide saying, this is exactly your ability. But your ability comes from the fact that you are the queen of this on the other side.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. Is there anything else we should talk about in this dream? Like I'm looking at the fact that the other people are now comforting the woman that was getting overwhelmed. So what's going on with that?
So when I talked to her about doing this last year or whatever, the point was to pick a topic that would be not necessarily contentious, but we talk about an issue, and I don't want to say anything because everything's politics, isn't it really? But you pick an issue and you find yourself on one divide of it, and other people are going to be another divide, and you're going to be annoyed that somebody doesn't have your viewpoint. Like they're the great topics for her to have people talk about, because people are going to like build up and explode, or whatever they're going to do. And that's the kind of situations that she wants to happen in her setting. Not that people explode, but they reach into themselves in some way. And while they're doing that, her energy is sneaking in the whole time, fixing the issues that are coming up because of the fact that the person is finding themselves getting annoyed, or the opposite. It doesn't matter what way they go, but it's all about her helping somebody heal and see the best in themselves. So it has to be a kind of a contentious thing that comes up. Even if they don't talk about it, it's like it's bothering them, and that's enough. But she can do this in a group. Like that's the beautiful thing about it. It's not just the person talking, although they're going to get the most, I suppose, but it's the whole group is going to get benefit from her being in the group.
Yeah, but the thing that I was trying to point out, her dream is showing that the other people were now comforting the woman that felt overwhelmed. It's really not the other people that are doing it, it's her. Is that what the dream is trying to say?
That part is where she holds back. So she was projecting and then stopped and said, oh, I better not do that. But that's what she came here to do. Don't switch it off. And then she lets other people take over. And it's not really working. The person is still distraught, that's in the middle, and everybody's comforting the person, rather than her just allowing her gift to propagate out and project into people. And just to be clear on this one, when I look at her on the other side, she has the light of God in her, which is a very unusual thing to ever see within a spirit. So what she's actually putting into other people is the light of God. And we often say that you need permission to do X, Y, and Z on people. So if somebody wants healing, they have to ask you, all that sort of stuff. When it comes to things where the light of God is involved, you don't need permission for that. That's like God, who is the ultimate authority in everything, is the one who's helping heal somebody. And so here she actually says that she wanted the person to do something from her own free will. But I pointed out because it seems contradictory to have a gift that you don't need to get permission from people to use. She is a very unique person.
Wow, Michael, thank you for sharing that dream and for giving us such a good analysis. So now I want to start by asking you some questions. I find it very interesting that you get such deep insights into dreams. I want to know, how did you start seeing spirits?
Oh, straight to that one. So it wasn't a plan. I was working in Siemens Nixdorf. That's Ireland's, or not Ireland's, Europe's biggest computer company, huge company. And I was leading a team of software developers on the Unix platform. And so it was about 19 people worked on my team. And it was a very stressful job. I was an atheist at the time, didn't believe in the spirit world, didn't believe in God or anything like that. But I was a very positive person, very optimistic, no depression or anything like that. My view was that we lived a life and it was up to us to live a good life and just enjoy it and be glad of the existence, like being here at all and being conscious and awake and aware. So that was my way of being. But I had always been curious about the mind and ways to develop and improve what you can do with your brain. Like Einstein says famously, we use 5 or 10% of our brain. I can't remember which. And so I was curious, like, how could we use more? And I decided to do a meditation course, and it was one that was developed around helping you do things during meditation, not a meditation where you just relax and try to lose yourself or focus on a mantra or anything like that. It was like, okay, this is a whole tool chest of various different things that you could do. And I did the Silva mind control method. It's the old version that Jose Silva came up with himself, not the current version. It's quite different now, but I did that. And I was meditating then for about 3.5 hours per day during the week, because I worked in Dublin City. It's a big city, 1.5 million people, a little bit less. And the traffic crawls. And, they could paint the road lines in front of your car. That's how slow the traffic goes. And so I was meditating on the bus on the way to work and on the way back from work. And so it averaged about 3.5 hours a day on a bad day. And no intention other than I'm going to get really good at using the tool chest and things that I'd learned in this meditation. And I was only doing it for a few months. And I was going to bed one evening, and, one of those things, my ex was already asleep in bed, and I get into bed, it's pitch dark. And, you ever get that sensation where you're like, oh, there's something in the room, and it's a bit spooky. So I sat up and I just did, like, I'm going to show my brain. I'm just going to look around the room, even though it's dark. Like, I'm going to look around the room. There's nothing in the room. The hairs on the back of my neck will go back down and everything will be fine. But I scanned the room, and at the end of the bed, why is it always at the end of the bed? There's 3 spirits, and they just look like humans. They look like you and me, except they were illuminated, but like the exact same features that you would have as a person. The only thing different that was weird was their arms. But anyway, they're walking around the bed, coming kind of towards me, but not like aiming at me or anything like that. And I screamed the place down. I couldn't believe it. Because, here they were real. I often say it's like if you never saw a dinosaur, and you haven't because they don't exist now, but if you saw one tomorrow, you would know it was a dinosaur. So it was like, I knew these were spirits, these 3 spirits. And so I woke my ex up, and the whole street, I think, and she tried to calm me down. Now, here's the thing. I was convinced she could see these. She would, they were clearly in the room. So it was more shocking to me that she couldn't see them than the fact that I could see them. And so eventually she calms me down, gets me to look at her, and I look back and they're gone. And they weren't just gone, my atheism was gone. So I knew, okay, there's a spirit world because I've seen spirits now. And I didn't know what to make of it. There was a few possibilities. First of all, I didn't know it was anything to do with the fact that I had practiced meditation. And so I was continuing to meditate. But what happened was, a few days later, another spirit came along, and it still scared the daylights out of me. And this spirit looked like just the upper torso of a man, didn't have any arms, and it was just like rope lights, like somebody had strung rope lights on a frame to make it look like a person. And it came towards me, me screaming all the way. And then as it got to about 3 feet from me, it was like as if it shot something at me and tasered me. And I was in absolute agony, like it still has its finger on the trigger, and then it walked through me and went away, and then the pain stopped. But it was so excruciating that I was like in the fetal position, screaming because of the pain. And that would come back every 2 or 3 weeks. And there was nothing I could do about it. It would just be the same thing over and over and over. So because of that one, I decided I needed to do something about this. I need to learn what this is and how do I stop it? Is there a way to stop it? And up until this point, I would have ridiculed anybody who was into the spiritual field. It didn't matter who they were. And I wasn't polite about it at all. I would follow you into the next room and ridicule you. So I had to now find somebody who knows things about this field that I said is full of charlatans till this point. And so I went to see a guy on Wicklow Street called Brendan O'Callaghan in Dublin, and got a reading from him. And my question was like, what's going on? And he said he didn't know what was going on, but he knew I needed to stop meditating. So I stopped meditating. He told me things, I was a total skeptic, but he told me things that I didn't know. He told me things about my father that I didn't know. And he told me my dad looked like me, which he does, he did. And, I kind of like, I always had this view like it's just a trick. Like somebody can say, oh, you look like your dad. And maybe it's a 50-50 chance you do. But the fact that he told me something I didn't know, and I thought I knew my dad well enough. I was 14 when my dad passed. And he told me a trait that he had where he would lean in and rub his knees because he had rheumatism. And I'm like, I don't think so. And anyway, I asked my sister that evening, and she said, oh, yeah, he had this happen. Did exactly what Brendan had showed me. Not sure why I'm getting into that. But the point is, it was a very slow turnaround for me to go from, like, I was an atheist, fine, but I still didn't believe all the things that people talk about in the spiritual field. That was a very slow path for me. He didn't help me figure out why that spirit attacked or kept attacking and it kept coming. That was something that I did figure out, but that was the start of it for me. I was on the journey because I needed to be on the journey because I was in agony every 2 or 3 weeks.
That is fabulous. So he told you how to get rid of the spirit or how to deal with it. How did he help you?
Well, he didn't tell me that, but he did tell me to stop meditating. And so what was happening was my ability to see spirits was getting stronger and stronger. So I could see them around everybody at this point. But they looked kind of like transparent figures. But the ones that were attacking me were very different. And the ones I saw the very first time were extremely different. But eventually I found somebody who said, oh, I know what that is. I know what happened. And I can tell you what you need to do. And he said, what you need to do is when the spirit shows up in the room, just tell it to stop and it'll stop. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to stop. Don't believe you. But he goes, no, it will. So he said, next time it shows up, tell it to stop. And then, do you know what the chakras are? And I'm like, yeah, I know what the chakras are now because I've read books about them and so on. And he said, I want you to imagine putting a crucifix in front of and behind each chakra. And I'm like, oh, well, I can stop you there because I don't believe in that. Don't believe in the Catholic Church anymore, etc. And he goes, it doesn't matter. It'll work. And I argued with him. So, I mean, this is what's funny is I argued with him. It's not going to work. The two things you just told me are not going to work. But then I didn't have to wait long. A couple of days later, that spirit shows up and it's coming towards me and I say, stop, and it stops. So then I'm like, okay, first part worked. So I imagine a crucifix and I put it like in front of every chakra and behind every chakra. Because like if we look at the brow chakra, we've got the front and the back. So I put a crucifix on each one. And it took me a little while. And then when I got it all done, I'm like, okay, you can move forward. And it starts moving forward. It gets to the point where I'm bracing for the pain, no pain. And then it just walks through me slowly. And so this is the first time I've kept my eyes open during the experience. And I'm looking at it. It's not just the rope lights now. I'm looking at the insides of a being as it walks through me. And I'm thinking, even though I can't draw a straight line, I'm thinking, wow, if I can document this by drawing it in some way, if I see it enough times, I can draw it. But it never came back. Like once that happened, once I learned how to defeat it, let's say defeat in quotes, it never came back because it was never getting anything from me anymore. But it made me think about this later on. You know, my first impression or second, let's say, my second experience of the spirit world is that you need protection. There are nasty spirits in the spirit world. And then when you think about it, at least when you're raised Catholic like I was in Ireland, you're taught about a guardian angel, that you have a guardian angel and it protects you. So we have this incredibly powerful being gifted to us by God who sits with us the whole way through our lives to protect us. Why? Why do we need that protector? So, you know, these things are all coming together. And then when you look at a guardian angel, they have a sword. Why do they need a sword? So, yeah, the spirit world is not a pleasant place. I mean, it is. There are parts of it that are just incredible, but there's very dark parts of the spirit world. I read a lot of books about near-death experiences. So that's kind of what I got into. Don't ask me how, but my logic was the spirit world's real. I don't really believe in the things that are around me and, you know, things that I can read. Well, I hadn't read much. I was lucky. I never read anything. So I had no bias. I just knew it was all lies. But so I started reading about near-death experiences. And I started visiting Stone Age sites. For whatever reason, those two things I believed. And I learned a lot from that. And of course, if you've read books about near-death experiences, there are very bad parts of the astral plane. And some people go there and they have really horrible near-death experiences. We mostly just hear of people who meet God or Jesus or some other incredibly benevolent being on the other side who tells them what their life purpose is and sends them back. And they're changed forever. that's changed them forever. But anyway, skip forward. Many years later, we're about watching an event where there is somebody who had a near-death experience is the guest. And at a certain point in the event, she starts listing the symptoms of people who have near-death experiences, who survive. And it's a horrible list, like can't stand bright lights, can't stand any light, do not like noises, don't fit in with the rest of the world. They've lost the connection to their partner and their children and all that. And it was about 18 or so things on the list. And you turned to me and you said, you've got 11 of them. And I don't know if you counted, but I was counting them while I was listening. I was going, oh my God. And what I knew though was I had 2 near-death experiences, but I had them while I was in the womb. And I think I was very fortunate because I had them before my eyes were developed. So I've never had a problem with bright lights. I love light. But I do have many of the other things on the list, including that noise one. And so it was that caused me the issue. And many years later, I say caused me the issue, it caused me to be able to see spirits. But I had obviously parked it. And then when I meditated, I activated it again. And the very first dream or second dream that I gave to George, he said, oh, you have an ability to see spirits, and it comes from this time when you had 2 near-death experiences just before you were born, and so on and so on and so on. And I'm like, oh, it all comes together. Like the dreams tie it all up. And so I was on this journey of trying to figure out what happened to me and why me? Why am I getting singled out to see these things? And then my dreams many years later showed me exactly why it was me and how it was all planned. So an absolutely amazing story, an amazing journey. But, I think everybody though has an amazing journey. It's just, this is what my one is. But if we listen to our dreams, we can find out what it is we're meant to be doing on our journey. Anyway, we are out of time. So what do we do?
Thank you, Michael. That was absolutely fabulous. I really enjoyed that. And do you know what? Next week, we're going to spend more time interviewing you because I think you've got some very interesting things to share with people about your path forward, how you got into dreams, and how it all fits together. Anyways, thank you everybody for listening. I hope you have a fabulous week, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.